think a lot of people were high on him coming out of high school and thought he would be one of the top 3 players in the NBA draft, going up with guys like LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman. Unfortunately, his season at North Carolina didn't go as expected. He played on a losing team, and his efficiency numbers weren't as good as you would expect from a top 5 team. The only reason his efficiency numbers were so bad is because Cole Anthony played a lot of hero ball at North Carolina, and he was injured more than expected while he was there. Out of the 30-something games, I think he only played 22, and he didn't get to show himself in an NCAA tournament, obviously, because his team wasn't winning and the pandemic. If you put Cole Anthony on a better team, it would be easy to see him being much more efficient from the field. And if you look at some of his stats and his shooting numbers, you'll see, like, I think he shot 38% from the field. But if you look at that number, that's a little bit misleading because his overall three-point shooting was about 34, 35, which isn't bad for a guard. But at the same time, he shot 6 threes a game, and he was about 2 for 6 from 3. So most of his shots, out of his, 16 shots a game, he was shooting 6 from 3. He was about a 40% shooter. If you look at his numbers, it's not that much different than a guy like Anthony Edwards, who's projected to be in the top 3. And like Anthony Edwards, Cole Anthony has tremendous athleticism. He's great off the bounce. He has a nice handle. His shooting form looks good. A lot of times when guys are younger and their shooting form looks good, but their efficiency numbers are down, it has a lot to do with the fact that their body hasn't finished maturing, and especially with the injuries, that limits your ability to blow by people like I know Cole Anthony can. So a lot of times when he was in the game and he was taking hero shots, it was because he might have been hurt or he might have had leg injuries that stopped him from blowing by defenders like he did in high school. So therefore he settled for a lot more jump shots, a lot more tough shots than he had to. If you project him to the NBA, at his worst, he's probably a Dennis Smith Jr. At his best, he might be a Steve Francis. The Derrick Rose comparison is easy to make, but it's hard to compare any prospect to Derrick Rose because we all saw how great, Derrick Rose was. And I think it would take the right situation for Cole Anthony to actually reach his potential. When I'm looking at other guys that he could possibly be, I can see like a little Tony Parker in his game. I can see a little bit of Dante Exum maybe in his game, but maybe not the height. He's not a bad player. He's not a guy you want to take in the top 3 or top 5. But if you get him in the lottery, the late lottery, or maybe right after the lottery, you're talking about a guy who could end up being the best player in this draft. The reason why most NBA scouts are saying that this is a weak NBA draft is because a lot of players that they would like or have the skill sets they would like don't have the resumes to back their production in college to say that they're going to be great players. So, like, if you want to put a reference to that, it's like if you look at Zion Williamson. Last year, Zion Williamson put up about 27 points a game. His team went to the NCAA tournament, and they ended up making the Elite 8. Even though NBA scouts try to make it seem like winning doesn't matter that much, NBA scouts put a lot of thought into how you won in the high school level and the college level. So you can be a guy and puts up points and stats, but if your team doesn't win, they automatically start putting that against you unless you're considered a better talent, like a way better talent than everybody else. Looking at Cole Anthony, I would say if you're comparing his talent to other top players in the previous draft, I would say he's at least on par with Markelle Fultz. And Markelle Fultz, you've seen he hasn't been that great in the NBA. He played on a losing team at Washington, and if you look at the stats and efficiency numbers, it might be pretty close, and Markelle Fultz wasn't injured when he was coming out of college. So looking at Cole Anthony, you're looking at a guy when completely healthy, he was going at it, with NBA players and getting the best of some. So it would be, if you're, the Milwaukee Bucks picking later in the draft, but you have a nice team, but you could use a point guard, I would take a guy like Cole Anthony because his game could end up being something like an Eric Bledsoe, or it could be a much better. The potential on this guy is out the roof. You can never really project freshman players into the NBA as well as you like because they could just be hitting their potential, or they could be a guy who doesn't work hard. From everything I've seen from Cole Anthony, he's one of the hardest working guys in in coming into the draft, so I'm sure that work ethic will pay off, and eventually he'll be a lead guard in the NBA, potential all-star, but at least he can give you Mike Conley level production once he does make it to the league. I know people have projected him to the Knicks at one point in time, but if I'm the Knicks, I don't touch Cole Anthony because you have a team with no shooters and a bunch of guys who have the same skill set. That's why if you look at, R.J. Barrett's stats and you look at, the stats of a lot of players on their team, they all went down last year because there was no floor spacing and they decided to force feed the ball into Marcus Morris, even though they had some younger guys who could end up being, much better players down the line. And that was just the fault of the Knicks. And you can see how Dennis Smith fit into that culture. I wouldn't want Cole Anthony to have the same issue. And I feel like people are going to see maybe in the next couple of years how Dennis Smith can be either a better backup point guard or at least a decent starting point guard down the line. I think he was dealt a bad deal. But looking at Cole Anthony, he has all the skill set to eventually be a lead guard in the NBA. Maybe not a superstar, maybe not an all-star, but he can definitely be a guy who can start on a team, who can give you buckets. He's super athletic. He has a nice handle. His jump shot isn't bad. Shooting 35% from three is encouraging. Consider he was a freshman. He's of slighter build, but a couple of years in the NBA routine, and this guy is probably going to be one of the steals of the draft. But when you're dealing with Boomer Bust prospects, you have to make sure that they go to the right organization. The problem with most Boomer Bust prospects is a lot of organizations, a lot of the bad organizations end up taking Boomer Bust prospects. So now look at the guy. The guy decided to Greek Freak. When he came out, he went to the Milwaukee Bucks. They gave him ample time to get better, work on the game, now he's better players in the league. For your players to grow, sometimes they need to get at least some decent minutes, but not too much for when they're overwhelmed, and then they end up being better players. Another thing about the prospect is remember that since you can relate more to a guy like definitely has to have a development, a great development staff, and they have to put the players in the right position to succeed. And if Cole Anthony ends up in the right system, he's going to be one of the better players. And the thing I wanted to talk about this draft is if you need a point guard, this is the draft where you're going to get your point guard in the future. Not only do you have different players and a guy like LaMelo Ball, 6'7", or a guy like Cole Anthony, well, 6'3", you have guys like Killian Hayes, R.J. Hampton, and another guy who I think R.J. Hampton is one of those other guys that I think is going to be one of the better players that comes out of the draft. Coming out of high school, he was ranked a lot higher than most of these guys. I think because he went to the NBO, and the NBO isn't big on playing young players, he didn't get the stats that would have shone to everybody in the United States. So therefore, people think that he's not as great of a prospect as he was last year. Coming out of high school, he's projected that he's one of the best players. So this is much like Kentucky, put up some good numbers. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but he's still going to be an NBA player. He ends up on the team like the Nets. Watch out because they already have talent. They've shown that they can grow talent like no other team. Some guys like Joe Harris, Watson, Harrison Bird, Spencer Dinwiddie, Arthur Hampton is another guy who's over there and really show up. Your team is don't be too worried. There's a lot of potential star players in the draft. And no, there might not be any LeBron James, but in this draft, you might get a guy like Paul George.
Our final participant, the only guy pulling double duty tonight, Cole Anthony. He needs 100.
Oh my Lord!
So, just so you know, Cole. All right. Can you imagine the thought process that went into making that his third eye? One of the judges said that might work.